Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everyday Heroes of Effective Giving series with Scott Weathers. The Everyday Heroes of Effective Giving series talks to people who are everyday heroes and give effectively and gets them to share about their motivations for giving, how they came to where they are today, and what they plan to do for the future. My name is Dr. Gleb Saporsky, and I'm the president of Intentional Insights, the organization that sponsors this series. So today, as I mentioned, we have with us a guest, Scott Weathers, who'll tell you a little bit about himself and his story. So the first question I want to ask Scott, as I ask for all members, is what makes you passionate about effective giving? Why is it a passion of yours?
Yeah, thanks, Gleb. That's a really good question. So I think the first thing that really made me passionate about effective giving was I discovered an essay by Toby Ord called The Moral Imperative Towards Cost Effectiveness. So I work in global health, and I think the lessons from this essay really apply to all the fields that we're working in, but particularly pertain to global health. So in this essay, Toby Ord goes through how seemingly small differences in cost effectiveness can make really big differences in terms of impact. So picking an intervention like antiretroviral therapy, ARVs versus bed nets, is a decision that not a lot of people really think about. Whether you're working on charity or you're thinking about which charities to donate to, or whether if it's the World Bank deciding what to fund. Those types of decisions are not things that most people pay attention to. But but it turns out that some interventions are massively more cost effective than others, and so these decisions that we make really, really do matter. And so when I realized this, that really, really inspired me to think more critically about this, to really look at the evidence behind the interventions that we fund. And I just really, really quickly realized that this was an entire field that not many people were paying attention to, that had the potential, where I had the potential to have a massive impact. So that's pretty much what decided to dedicate most of my career to. And I've really enjoyed it. It's really intellectually stimulating, and it's a field where I think I can make a really massive impact, both as a donor, donating my money to effective causes, as well as in my career.
Cool, excellent. So you answered a question I was going to ask, which is how you got into this field. So can you share a little bit more now about what you're doing right now in the field and what your current priorities are, what you think is the most important thing for you to work on, and also what you plan to do in the future as you expand and build up on your career and on your work in effective giving?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just to start out a little bit, I think I discovered, through Toby Ord's essay in high school, and also I had a lot of friends in high school who were raising money for different charities, and I decided that one of the things that I really wanted to do was to investigate which charities would be the most cost effective and I could make the greatest difference by donating to. So I did a lot of research in high school, and the charity that I ended up discovering was Vitamin Angels, which does vitamin A supplementation. And obviously, I've updated since then. I've learned more and found organizations that I think are more effective. But for high school, I think that was a really effective organization and one that I really, really still enjoy. So since high school, I did undergrad at American University in DC. I interned at a lot of different global health organizations. And I've graduated and I'm now working at an organization called IntraHealth International. And I'm our global policy associate. So I'm basically, day to day, it pretty much boils down to I'm a lobbyist. So I try to convince members of Congress to support global health legislation. And this is a field where I think I can make a really, really big impact um, by uh, by increasing the amount of money that USAID and other agencies get to spend on global health, and by making sure that the money that we do spend is on the most effective interventions. Um, Down the road, I'm next year I'm starting a master's of science in global health at Harvard. And really the place that I see myself having the greatest impact is by moving the money that we're spending into up the ladder of cost effectiveness. So making sure that we're spending money, as I've said, on the most cost effective interventions. Um, and there's a lot of people that I think have really inspired me to do this. Amanda Glassman and Victoria Fan at the Center for Global Development are two researchers that have really pioneered this field a lot, I think. And they've really, really influenced the way that I think in terms of, how can we influence big donors, whether it's countries or whether it's big institutions like the WHO or the Global Fund or Gavi or PEPFAR, making sure that those organizations are spending money on the best interventions. So that's kind of the problem that I've dedicated I so far have dedicated my life to. And given that I'm pretty early in my career, hopefully I'll have many more years to work on.
Yeah, sounds like you definitely will. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, something you didn't mention, is what would be your ideal vision of the world? What kind of impact would you want to have left behind as you progress through your career?
That's a really great question. Well, so I would say the thing that the mark that I would like to leave, over the next 50 or 60 years or however long I live, I would really like to leave behind a culture within organizations like USAID, the UK aid agency DFID, and then at other big multilateral organizations. I would like to leave behind a culture that spends money on interventions based on the strength of evidence for those interventions, and for how cost effective we know those interventions to be. So, working within those organizations and working outside of them and advocating for them to adopt better practices around how to spend money effectively is kind of the legacy I'd like to leave. I mean, also just as an effective altruist more generally, and as someone who cares about effective giving, I'd really like to inspire my friends, my family, um, other people to donate their private funds to effective causes and effective interventions. And I think that this, taken together, it's not just going to be my impact as an individual, but I think that this is the mark that effective altruism is really going to leave on the world. That's going to be so impactful. We're creating a culture of giving where it's cool and it's interesting and intellectually stimulating to be engaged with these really technical questions. Um, and that's what I'm spending my life on, and I think that it's really fun. I really enjoy it, and I think that I'm having a really big impact. So that's the mark that I would like to leave.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. And that sounds like a really great mark to leave. And I really appreciate you participating in this video series. And I think you're a great example of an everyday hero of effective giving. And again, this is the Everyday Hero Effective Giving series. My name is Dr. Gleb Saporsky. I'm the president of Intentional Insights. And we've today met Scott Weathers and talked about what he does and how he is an everyday hero of effective giving. Thank you very much for participating, Scott.
Thanks, Clip.
Bye-bye.